Hey everyone, in this video, we just wanted to take a little time to talk to you briefly about automatic negative thoughts, or ants for short. And these are basically just thoughts that you have about your life circumstances that are detrimental, uh, or negative, or catastrophic. Um, there's quite a few different kinds of ants, and the purpose of this video is just to basically outline some examples and how you can overcome them. And one of the best ways to do that is to journal.
Yes. And you write down the the automatic negative thought. And those just pop up. You'll notice them because they'll just pop up in your head randomly. Like they're usually stinking thinking thoughts. You write them down and then you reframe it on paper. Like, I made a mistake and everything is ruined. You can reframe that and say, it is one little blip. It does not dictate my entire life.
Right? Yeah, that would be an example of like an all or nothing, right?
Yeah.
You made a mistake,
like
so everything's ruined. That's all or nothing thinking.
Yep.
And so that's one type of ant. Another example would be like always thinking, working in the absolute of this is how things are always going to be. Like, I'm never going to be able to quit that bad habit.
And I'm sure a lot of you are thinking this too with COVID. Like, there's a lot of like negativity just in our atmosphere, like permeating everyone's being, right? And so we have a lot more of these, like, nothing is ever going to get better. I'm sure you're seeing it on Facebook too.
Yeah, and that feeds perfectly into another example, which is just focusing on the negatives. And this plays right into the negativity bias, which is something we've mentioned in previous videos. And it makes sense to focus on the negative aspects from an evolutionary survival standpoint. But that's also a form of an ant, is when you evaluate a situation, you're only focusing on the negative parts of it.
Yeah, so a way that you can reframe that is, yes, I did that today, but this whole week has been phenomenal otherwise. Because really, most of the time, the week is okay, and you make everything catastrophic with that one ant, right?
Yeah. So similar.
And reframe it as a learning experience. Like, that helps me too.
Yeah. So similar to that would be thinking with your feelings. We all experience a range of emotions, and it's completely normal. But emotions are fleeting. And
they're never permanent.
And so you don't want to use them to guide a lot of your decisions. I mean, obviously, we have emotions for a reason. They're there to give us information and feedback about the situation and how we are coping with it, but they shouldn't guide any major decisions. And so, especially when they're negative.
Yeah, and I've found over the years, if I use my emotions to help me make a decision, it usually ends bad because they're usually irrational, right? Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, I tend more on the logic side than the emotional side, and that's why, though, is because I've learned that my emotions cannot be trusted. Not for like big life decisions anyways.
Yeah. So the next ant would be guilt beating, or trying to guilt yourself with behavior. Basically, like, why, or like, I should be able to do something. Why can't I? Like, why? Well, who says you should be able to do it, and who says that it should be easy? Why are you guilting yourself over this?
Yeah, why are you assuming that it is going to be an easy process? Instead, you can reframe it and you can say, well, this may not be easy, but it will be worth it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Another one is labeling too. It's kind of similar to that, where you just give yourself labels, like, for whatever reason.
Oh, this one is my most despised. I don't like labels because we tend to identify with them, And then we end up living, like looking back at a decade, and we labeled ourselves as a binge eater, and we binge ate for that entire decade because we called ourselves a binge eater, and that is what we identified with. We live out our labels, whatever they are. So you need to be very careful with what you call yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So like if you say, I'm weak, well, no, you're not weak. You might be impulsive at times, but that doesn't make you weak.
Not overall. Like, no one is weak, 100%.
So those are that's example of ants. There's 3 others we want to mention, and we're separating them out right now because these can be thought of more like red ants. They're the ones with stingers. They're the ones that can really do the most damage. And so the first red ant is fortune telling. This is where you are predicting the worst possible outcomes in the future based on the information that you have.
I will be miserable at the work party if I don't shove all the cheese platter in my mouth.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like, well, how do you know that?
How do you know you're going to be miserable? You don't.
No one can predict the future. And so, so first of all, why are you predicting the future? But second, why are you predicting it to be negative? Where it's like you need to gorge on food or drink all the alcohol in order to enjoy it. How do you know?
And so the only way out of this trap, because we all do it, no one is free from these ants, these automatic negative thoughts, because of the negativity bias that we talked about. We all have them, but the game changer is reframing it. And consistently, like you can't just do it once and expect every time that thought comes into your head, it's automatically going to be reframed because you did the work once. No, the work has to be done over and over and over again.
Yep, exactly. So
consistency.
Yeah. So another red ant is mind reading. And this is making assumptions about what other people are thinking when they haven't told you. We do this all the time. And especially many times the assumptions are just our own thoughts. Like we judge ourselves and then we project that judgment onto others.
Yeah, like if you're at a kid's birthday party, I used to do this one too, so I know. I would think that people would think I was weird if I didn't eat the cake. I don't like cake, never have. But I thought people would think I was weird if I didn't eat the cake.
Yeah.
That's an ant.
But why are people going to think you're weird?
They don't usually. They don't even, and that's a reframe that I had to do consistently because that one was that hung out for years for me.
Yeah. And if somebody is judging you because you didn't eat cake,
it's
then
their own internal battle with
they think they should be able to not eat cake, and they're sitting there going, why am I eating this? Why can't I not eat this? Yep. And they're projecting that onto you, and that's why they're judging you. So the last red ant is blame. It's passing blame onto another thing or person. And it could be as simple as, I should be able to lose weight, but my dang genetics. It's like, well, why is it your genetics' fault? I mean, obviously...
It can make things a little more difficult, but it does not make it impossible. Nothing is impossible if you have the mindset. Yeah.
And okay, so admittedly, genetics and weight loss might have been a bad example because if you have a leptin deficiency, then
that is super rare though.
Yeah. And you can get leptin injections, but I mean, in that case, when you're like obese, it literally, you can blame your genes. Like, let's be real.
Yeah, but I don't know if I would blame. I would be like, well, I can only do this much within this, right?
Yeah.
Because blaming gives away all of our power. And in that situation, if I had a leptin deficiency, I would be like, well, I can get injections. No, I'm not going to lose weight the same as everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to be as lean ever as someone else, but I can do what I can right now.
Yeah, it's about retaining control over how you respond. So things outside of yourself might be the cause of a situation. Like if you're sitting in traffic, standstill traffic or whatever, and somebody comes over and bashes your car with a bat, and you were just like stuck in traffic, there was no provocation or whatever. I mean, yeah, you could easily say it was their fault, like I didn't do anything. It's like that may very well be the case, but you do have control over how you respond to a situation. You have the ability to not react,
and that is hard.
yeah.
And I'm still working on that one.
Yeah. So that was our brief talk about automatic negative thoughts, or ants, and how they can permeate your thoughts, and just be aware of them. Do some journaling when you have them, or like at the end of the day, and write down what those ants were and some ways to reframe them to be more positive.
Yeah, if you need help in the moment, like if you're driving or something and you need to reframe, do it mentally inside your head. Say, is this true? That is the question that I always ask myself. Is this true? And usually you can find ways where it's not.
Yeah, perfect. So if this helped you, then awesome, because that's what we're trying to do. And if you think someone else could be helped by this information, then please share the video with them. Thanks.
Bye.